All right. All right, Christopher and Alex, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us and host to be part of this event. With that introduction, we are really proud to have you guys. It's quite a resume and a lot of very interesting things. You've been through the industry. Now let's get started by getting your opinion on some of the key things in the industry. How do you think games have changed over the past year, 5 years or so?
So I'm not sure games are changing that much. I mean, if you look at Gamescom, all the incredible games which are being shown, we kind of like explosions, we like monsters, we like sports games. So I think the gaming is evolving, but the people who make the games, I think that's where I see the big change. It's not just the big studios, it's not just the big labels, it's a lot of independents, mid-size, small-size studios creating really, really awesome content. I think that's been the biggest change.
Anything?
I do agree with Christopher on that.
No, that's definitely very interesting. There's a lot of change there. Where do you think the gaming industry is going from there? Right? We talked about how there's a lot of independent game studios, but where do you think we're going to go there, and how is Barb preparing for that future?
So there are two main types of players. If you exclude like sports games and very specific games, you can resume it in like online experiences. Like myself, I like to play online games, competitive games, and have fun in multiplayer and have social experiences. Although I also like to play a crafted experience and a story-driven experience. So I guess these will evolve equally. In our case, we're working on satisfying both kind of players. So I think we will be prepared for that.
All right, excellent. Well, let's talk about. Oh, yeah.
Which is one thing, because I think what's really changing is that we have a lot more women in games, not just playing them, but creating them. And that will give, like, I think it helps new games, new ways to play, new ideas, and new concepts.
Yeah, no, I think the future is really bright. But let's talk about your history as well in your past. So we're interested in how you got started and what made you leave your AAA kind of game studio jobs to go in and start an independent studio.
In my case, I was an adult of Ubisoft. So after 18 years, I thought I would fly with my own wings. And I did two different studios. I worked on a lot of different franchise. So saw a lot of processes, and I was kind of spinning in a circle. So for me, it was a good experience to join these guys, which have a tremendous game coming up. And it is a good challenge, and it's interesting to be part of that smaller team that's a lot more efficient because you don't have like 20 years of processes and political stuff going on. You want to change something. It's not like a cruise ship where I used to work, where you want to change something. It's going to take years to try to aim towards something different. Here, we have a call with three guys. We decided something. Next week, it's done. It's a lot more fast paced and more adaptable.
That sounds really cool. How about you, Christopher?
Well, I've always been in indies, to be honest. So smaller, bigger, quite large ones, to be honest. So I think once you've been a pirate, you can't really join the Navy. So you are just staying independent. But what Alex said, I just can echo that you always want to be better than yesterday. And when you're independent, you can just take your learnings, you can take other people's experiences really, really quickly, transform it into action and see if it works.
So, well, you're an independent studio, but why did you decide to kind of go down the AAA game route? Because most independent studios tend to be more obviously indie is in their name. But what made you guys decide that you want to go AAA and go big?
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of seniors and veterans, and there's no way we can do something lesser. Not to say that the AA games are lesser than AAA games in some way, but we're trying to aim as high as possible. And with the new tools available to us today, I think that's the way to go.
Absolutely. You never lower the bar. So once you have the taste of doing AAA, I think that's all you want to do.
Well, let's extend those thoughts on kind of AAA indie game studios. What do you think or feel about the future of AAA games that's really exciting for independent studios?
I think that you can actually make them. I think just the tools out there, the know-how which is available for free in many cases, or just very simply, is incredible. So you can take a really small team. I know it's going to sound cheesy. You can do more with less, but you can literally do that today. You have so much out of the box with the tools and the products and services out there. So it's achievable.
Yeah, basically anyone can have an idea. And if you go to a big publisher and say, I want to do a game about a cucumber that jumps around, it's going to say, yeah, next. But you can build your own game and maybe have a success at it. So that's really different. It's going to bring up a lot of different games. And we see that today with the different games out there already. So
Yeah, on that note, why do you think independent studios have that opportunity now versus what they had just 5 or so years ago? Like, what's changed that they are now able to kind of do what you're talking about?
well, it's all the external tools that are available for a team now. Like Christopher said, you can have a smaller team. You don't need 100 engineers to build an engine from scratch. You can just start with something that works and have all these third parties fill up whatever experience you don't have or like resources for. So
Yeah.
that's a big win. That's a big game changer.
All right, excellent. Well, let's kind of pivot a little bit and talk about some of the challenges that you had to overcome, as an independent game studio, and that you have access to these tools, and you're able to continue to make AAA games, even though you're an independent game studio. Can you tell us about the journey and some of the challenges that you've faced so far?
I think one of the big ones for us was actually that we were always multi-location. So from the foundation, we had 2 studios and a couple of other side locations where the coordinate work. So the way the team was set up and remote collaboration or just even multi-site collaboration, that was a big change because you can't just walk up to people so easily and just get something in the game or just have the talk. So that was day one. We had to set up pipelines, collaboration tools, everything to support that. But that was a huge change from just one studio and one crew.
And I guess having Leslie starting a new studio, that's something, but otherwise people don't know the name of the studio, so they don't search on the internet to see if their job's opened. So it's harder to reach to all those people to tell them like, hey, here's a new studio that you never heard about. Would you like to join? So I guess that was one of the first challenges.
Oh yeah, that's a massive one.
Okay. And so from some of these challenges, what are some of the lessons that you learned with your experiences up to this point? How did you deal with recruiting and getting the word out there about your existence?
Well, networking is really important. So that's key. That's still like get the right people on board and then just use their network to just deliver the message that, how the culture is. Building that culture really strong so it spreads, I think really important thing to do. The other thing, of course, is you just work on your constraints as much as you can. But there's a big competition out there for talent. I think the whole industry has a capacity shortage at the moment. So you just have to be really clever and just find the shortcuts and the good ways.
And we're still learning. It's not like, yeah, the learning is done. We know what we're doing now. We think we know what we're doing, but we're constantly learning. It's a journey where we haven't shipped yet. So that's a different game.
Yeah. You mentioned culture earlier. I thought that was particularly interesting. Can you kind of share a little bit about the kind of culture that you're building and how that resonates and helps you with recruitment and finding the others?
But it's always going to be talent first and people first. So that has to be the culture wherever you go. There's no geographic edges. You just find good people in a location. You build around them. You respect, their way of working. You try to get them, into our workflows and the Barb way of thinking. But it also has to be centered on the individuals who contribute and build the game. So they have to feel they're empowered and they thrive. I think that's the key.
And working remote brings communication challenges. So what we're looking for is also good communicators, because it's no use to have like the best candidate or like the best programmer if he's alone in his corner, not communicating anything. So that's something we really screen when we do the interviews. We do a lot of them with the team, make sure that it's a mutual fit also, because we want them to be happy and want us to be happy to have the candidate. So yeah.
All right. No, it's great to hear how you're building culture and how you're trying to build a brand to attract talent and bring others in. But kind of going back to your beginnings, how did you first hire your first few team members? How did you get this started?
That was our friends network, essentially. You say, hey, we're doing this incredible thing. Come on the journey. And that's how it starts, really. So we go through that and then other people bring it in when they see what it is. And that's how you just expand.
Yeah, were you part of that initial friend?
Well, I joined in last year, so I wasn't there at the start. But yeah, I was approached and I was just curious about it.
Okay.
And yeah, the promise seemed
Someone
big.
put your name in a hat.
Well, it sounds like a very friendly environment. What roles and teams are most important for you to build first in order to kind of get this project started and for you to kind of get to where you are?
I think you have to think top down. So you have to get the leadership in place first. Everybody who can actually maintain and understand that vision and then propagate that into their teams. And second would be your software. So obviously you need your technology leaders. You need to have your good programmers in place, and then artists as well. A strong art director, great lead artists, and that's how you go. And they usually bring some people with them as well.
Okay. Yeah. So effectively go top down, hire the right leaders, put in the right positions, and then they'll build themselves out as well.
Yeah, because you want them to build their own team so that there's a good dynamic. You don't want to impose them people. Yep.
Well, that's very exciting. And it sounds like well, you're working pretty globally. Your engineers are all spread out. Can you tell us more about some of the challenges that you are mentioned some challenges, but can you kind of expand on some more of the challenges of having to be a global company?
Time zones are a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure I can solve that. Uh, but I think remote working is great. Like it's always been possible, and a lot of people really enjoy it, and it's got good work-life balance. But communication, collaboration is different. It gets very organized instead of just these impromptu. Hey, just walk up to somebody. Hey, what are you doing? What are your problems? Just have a water cooler talk, have a coffee, and just get different perspectives on a feature you're working on or a bigger chunk of the project without actually having that plan. So those organic collaboration, the organic communication, that's, hard. And you need to get new rituals going. So make sure that people can actually come together in a more relaxed way, even when they're remote.
And there are simple things because in my previous work, we were working with different studios around the world, and I had bought my own webcam just so that we can get some FaceTime. Because when you do a phone call, you don't humanize that person as much as when you have some FaceTime, and everyone is using his webcam and on every call. So at least you get to see the people. Because if you just communicate by email or by phone, it's not going to work well. So yeah, these tools are easy to use and it's simple to use.
Yeah.
And we tried to get some real FaceTime. We had an event at work this summer where we gathered everyone around in Edinburgh, and we got to meet each other. So it creates bonds that when you work in remote afterwards, these bonds are there. So it helps a lot.
Yeah, I think you want to organize for moments that matter for the whole studio, because travel, of course, that has a life cost to it. So, but you need to have frequent touch points with people, like physical touch points as well. So that's one of the rituals we're doing, is getting different milestones or different achievements, celebrate them together, do something nice, talk about it. Then you can go back work. Then you hit the next beat, you do something together, and then you go back to work.
That sounds great. And it sounds like you've always been remote, or was that a byproduct of the pandemic? Did the pandemic change anything, or were you always planning to be remote anyways?
I shouldn't say this, but bless the pandemic.
I'm more
that
old
part.
school, so I did like the studio a lot. I think the pandemic, but it was always possible to remote, but it was always seen as something, scary and risky a little bit. So I think with the pandemic, we just had big rules imposed on us. There's no travel, there's no FaceTime. So we just had to get really good at that and figure that out.
Because remote work has always been possible. Just it was viewed as a risk for a lot of people. Like people are not going to work, but actually for programmers, when you're in an office and you get disturbed all the time, I think there was a study saying that it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for a programmer to get back into focus whenever he gets poked. So being at home, it gives you this bubble where you can be super focused and effective. And people even tend to work more. So I have to advise even some of my team members like to just log off and stop working at some point, because the limit is kind of fuzzy. So you have to have a good hygiene to make sure that you don't overwork.
So it sounds like there's a bunch of actual hidden benefits of that was very useful for you as well. But how does this influence your technical decision making that you have to make?
It doesn't change any technical decision we do for the game, because the game is still the same game, whether we're on site or remote. It just changes the tool we use or the rituals, the process to make that game. But as far as technology, as long as we have the proper communication tools set up, there's no technology in the game that would change that. So.
I leave the technological decision making to Al.
Well, how is this any different than how you used to build games in your prior companies? Do you feel like this is a significant departure from how you used to operate or work?
Yeah. I have to say probably yes, because it was always just one big studio, and back in the day you just lived there, right? You lived the game and you did that. So I think what we carry from the old past and the old ways is the game is still the boss. We are here to make the best game we can, but we have just a very, very diverse crew doing this right now, and we are spread all over the planet with different paths, and it's just not recruiting from one location. We have a very multinational team, and you have just access to so much more talent with so many diverse experiences. So you can actually take that on board, and that changes a little bit your rituals and workflows as you grow the company.
What are some kind of an example of a critical technical issue that you had to go solve for, and you felt like the current just kind of tying everything together, the having access to the tools that you have today, what are some changes in technical decisions that you were able to kind of make just because you have access to more things that you had before?
Well, yeah, it means we can reach a AAA quality with a reduced team, like you mentioned earlier, like where you can do more with less. Whatever cheesy that sound, it's true, because you don't have all like the talent to do like all the back end stuff. Well, you can look at AccelByte and they can help you out. You don't have an engine. Well, you can look at different players out there and pick the best for your game. So that you just focus on the actual game content instead of all the things to support the game. You can reach out to third parties easy now. So.
And from my part, collaboration tools have been much, much better. And the fidelity of communication and what you can do in a hybrid environment, when some of us are in the office, some of us are remote, but still work together, that is been a game changer, I think, because you have these really great whiteboards, you have really good collaboration tools, you can talk, you can make people more visible, even if they're virtual. That's always been a problem for me, is a meeting is always stronger when we are all in a room, but we can't. Okay, so how do we make the people visible? Like, can we put on big screens? Can we, push the audio is better, so you don't feel I'm not gonna speak because my line is shit, So all these things have been improved, but still a way to go, by the way. But
actually, I find it easier. Like back in the day, we would go to a conference room with these cameras set up, and there was always an HDMI that was unplugged, and we have these technical issues. And now with everyone at their own desks doing the thing, you get better sound quality and you get the better focus, and it just works best.
A cable was unplugged.
But anytime we would go to a conference room, there was somebody who brought his PC, unplugged stuff, and go back, and that doesn't happen with your own computer, I would hope.
That's really interesting. I love all the different kind of challenges that you have to go through and to try to make this game. I'm sure that nothing is easy when you're making a AAA title, and all of these different tools are only there to try to help you be better. But it's still challenging to just put everything, together. One of the things we want to kind of get a little bit more insight into, and hopefully you can share your insights with others who might have their own aspirations to do what you're doing as well, to create a AAA title game with less resources, using as much building on top of other tools, so that you can focus on better game experiences. Can you share what some of the key challenges for new studios or new teams or new engines? Can you share some advice around how to kind of get started and to deal with some of those challenges?
I think you have to stay true to your vision, because that's going to define and drive everything you really do. And then do good planning. Understand your plans will be wrong, but it's going to be the best wrong you have at that moment. But just go execute. pivot if you need to, change them if you need to, but don't really surrender the vision, because that has to drive the whole endeavor, really.
To follow your vision, follow the path.
Absolutely.
Alex, a targeted question for you. What lessons would you share about with other studio technical leaders who are considering to build online games?
The online part of games, it's the Wild West as soon as you go on the interwebs. So game security is something important that you should plan ahead for. And you have to see it a bit like an entrance. Like you don't want to overpay and like double your development time to make sure everything is perfect and it cannot be. You don't know how much people will try to breach. So the best position you can be in is make sure that you have the proper architecture to react. Because cheating and hacking in games, it's like a cop and robbers kind of thing. Whatever you do, somebody will break it and you'll have to react to it. So if you have the structure in place, if you have like some servers in place and then see that they try to cheat your economy some way, and then you can leverage whatever your server can do and have that data to react properly, that's something. If you don't have servers and you're doing a full peer-to-peer thing for a competitive online and you have some economy involved, that won't cut it. So you have to be prepared for the worst, but you don't have to invest like all your gold into making sure everything is unbreachable, because that won't happen. It will be breached in some way.
Oh, so effectively plan for the best, be reactive, making sure that you have your finger on the pulse and to be able to
I say
be
plan for the
forward.
worst, but hope for the best.
Absolutely. Now, Christopher, a question for you then. As you look back over the past year or two, what advice would you share with others in this room?
Phew. Recruitment is difficult, it's hard. So you have to actually overcommit a little bit and over-index on your efforts there. We always thought, yeah, we can just hire people, we can have this. It's not as easy anymore. So you really need to actually have, I think, a strong team dedicated to that. You need to have a good plan for how to attract talent and communicate with the talent. So that's a big one. The second thing is onboarding, especially remotely, is really hard. Getting them to get into the culture, getting them to actually get the vibes is hard just through, communication channels.
Yeah, and it's hard to onboard a senior, but to onboard more junior people and try to coach them at the same time is even harder. So
Yeah.
so
Those two things just really, really keep them in mind. I wish I would have known how difficult that was, I would say 2 years ago.
No, that's great advice. Recruiting is definitely very challenging, and finding the right talent and finding the right fit. Another follow-up question would be like, if you look into the future, what are some blind spots that you wish you would be able to foresee? If you had a mirror ball and able to see the future, what's the most important thing to either of you that you want to be able to visualize?
I would guess this max CCU we're going to have in the first month, so we can plan properly and how many servers and how it will scale. Because that's always a surprise. You can think you're going to have the best game ever. It's in the player's hands and at that point. So there's a bit of luck and an alignment of stars when you ship a game. Can go wrong, can go good. So yeah, if I could know what's going to be our CCU first month, that would help us.
I want to know everything.
Everything, everywhere.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, then we have to go to different dimensions to be able to see all of that. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us and answering all these different questions. I thought in closing that we would want to hear a little bit more about what Build a Rocket Boy is building. I heard that you had a recent announcement, so I thought we'd like to learn a little bit more and see what you're willing to share with everyone.
So yeah, we're super excited to actually show our teaser off at Opening Night Live this Tuesday. So I would like to invite you all to actually check it out. It's on Twitch, YouTube, and our channels as well. We are being very much coming out of stealth mode, so we're not talking so much about the game yet. We'll be keeping communicating, but I can just reiterate what our assistant game director Adam said. So it's a multi-world experience. We're building a world for gamers where you can play, come, share, create, and watch, and more to come. Really more to come.
So go to everywhere.game to subscribe to our newsletter so we can be first to know what's happening.
Please do.
That sounds really fun and really interesting. And we certainly look forward to hearing more about your game as we, hope you build it out a little bit more. Well, again, thank you very much.
Was a pleasure. Thanks for
We
having
want
me.
to. We
Thank
do
you
wanna-
guys for coming. And thank this
Yeah, no,
beautiful
thanks
day
everyone
and
for
spending with
coming.
us.
With that, thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming
Thanks.
by.